The expectations for the Cleveland Guardians preceding the 2022 season were pretty much all in the area of a third or fourth place team with about 70 to 75 wins. With barely any star power left over in the batting order after Francisco Lindor was traded during the 2021 offseason, most didn't believe that the Guardians could rebound. And in 2021, it certainly looked that way. An 80-82 record in a very weak American League Central was definitely not the most vibrant way to conjure a good impression to the other teams in Major League Baseball. They were just a flawed team. On the surface, you of course have the 3 no-hitters thrown against them. Most teams probably get no-hit 3 times over the span of an entire decade or two. And even that might be an understatement. That's unthinkable. Just imagine being a fan and having to sit through 27 whole innings of offense without recording a hit. That's just terrible. This metaphorically summarized their season. The numbers weren't exactly enlightening as they posted a team-wide OPS of 710, 18 points below the league average and 21st in the entire league. The team ERA stood at 4.34, 8 points below the league average and 18th in the league. Just from those 2 statistical placements, we can infer that they were a middle-of-the-pack team, and since I've already stated their record, you would know that. For the most part, Guardians hitters were mediocre at best, save for 2 players. Those players were Framil Reyes and Jose Ramirez. Reyes on one hand slugged .522 with a 126 WRC+ over 466 plate appearances, although producing a lackluster 1.2 fWAR due to him being primarily a designated hitter. Reyes had always been an awful fielder, recording -12 defensive runs saved in over 660 innings in the outfield during his 2019 season. Nonetheless, he was one of the only bright spots of this Guardians lineup in 2021. Most baseball fans know Jose Ramirez because he's one of the best players in the game. A Gold Glove defender at third base and electric with the bat, he's easily one of the top 25 players in Major League Baseball. 2021 was just another run-of-the-mill year for him as he led this Guardians squad. His 36 home runs led the team by a wide margin, and his 137 WRC+ ranked 17th in the league. But he's known just as much for his defense as he is his offense. His defense is what makes him special in comparison to other guys like Rafael Devers and Justin Turner. His 10 defensive runs saved tied him for second among third basemen, and on top of that, he played nearly 200 less innings than the guys ahead of him. Reyes and Ramirez weren't the concerns going to this season, though. It was more on the unproven guys of the team. When talking about unproven players, young arms like Tristan McKenzie and James Karinchak come to mind for me. Last year, they both weren't very good, each posting a FIP over 4.3. But this year, they've come into their own, having fantastic seasons, McKenzie's as a starter and Karinchak's out of the bullpen. That's a common theme for this team, their ability to develop young pitching prospects into reliable and dependable arms. It seems like they just have endless supplies of young relievers. To rattle off a few more names, Trevor Stephen, Eli Morgan, Emmanuel Clase, and Aniel De Los Santos are all great relievers. We can't just forget about their ace Shane Bieber either, though. Over the course of 30 starts this year, he has delivered a stellar 2.91 ERA to go along with a 2.89 FIP. Top it all off with 4.8 fWAR, and he's quietly having one of the best starting pitcher seasons this year. His strange shoulder injury in 2021 caused him to miss significant time, but he hasn't shown it this season, and will certainly step up big for Game 1 of the American League Division Series come mid-October. But where the team has really made a difference from 2021 to 2022 is all up and down the lineup. Framil Reyes, who I talked about earlier, just came out flat and wasn't the same guy. He would post a 69 WRC+ before being DFA'd by the Guardians in August. You'd think that would put a damper on things, but it was quite the opposite. The rise of another young player, Jimenez, has been one to behold. This guy was a complete nobody before the season got underway, and now he's earning some very slight MVP consideration. So what changed? He got the opening day job at second base, which many questioned at first due to him primarily being a shortstop with very little experience on the other side of the middle infield. His -2 defensive runs saved in 196 innings there in 2021 reinforced this claim. But what changed is that his line drive rate skyrocketed, and in turn his ground ball and fly ball rates dropped. His barrel percentage leaped, and maybe most importantly, he stopped being pull heavy. This season, over 35% of his batted balls are dumped into center field. Every baseball player can tell you that line drives to center field work, and the statistical results are reflecting that. Offensively this season, through 139 games and 527 plate appearances, Jimenez is slashing .305, .377, .484 with an .861 OPS and 146 WRC+. He's been the Guardians' best player this year, both offensively and defensively. He can do it all and has been so detrimental to the success of this team. Like was the case with Shane Bieber, Jose Ramirez is also having an incredibly underrated season simply because of how good he normally is. A casual 138 WRC+ and 5.8 F4 has him positioned to be a key contributor in the American League playoffs for these Guardians. The Cleveland Guardians have fought against all expectations, overcome teams that were supposed to be above them in the standings, and have already won the American League Central with more than a week of games left to play. Even if they don't make any noise in this year's playoffs, they'll be here for years to come, hungry for their chance to reach the upper echelon of teams in Major League Baseball.